of the planning board here at Wickham Hall. I'll start with the roll call. Scott Self, who is me, I'm here. Richard Lane. Here. Mark Scalera. Here. Brandon Self. Here. Michael York. Not here. Victoria Ames.
Here.
Selectmen's Rep Charles Harbeck.
Here.
Steve Malone, alternate.
Here.
Michael Scungio, alternate. Kim Johnson, alternate.
Here.
Okay. So I will seek Jane for Michael.
Okay.
And tonight's agenda, we have under applications and public hearings, we have a boundary line adjustment application, Southwest Community Services and Swanzey Township Housing Associates. In partnership with the town of Swanzey, have requested a boundary line adjustment to transfer 3.3 acres of land area from tax map 110 lot 70 to tax map 110 lot 71. The remaining lot 70 will be 5.1 acres and the expanded lot 71 will be 3.7 acres. Both properties are in Village Business District 2 and Residential District. Under discussions and other business, we have site plan modification discussion on the new form and any other business as may be required. Moving to the top, we have the approval of the minutes of July 25th, 2024. Do we have a motion to approve those minutes?
I'll make it.
Motion to approve by Brandon. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Richard. Is there any further discussion, changes or alterations to the minutes? I have a few clarifications to make. And let's see, it would be on page 1, and it would be the last paragraph on page 1, where it talks about code enforcement submitted a memorandum stating that he has not reviewed the requested use for space at the hyperbaric chamber. What he said was that he had not reviewed the requested use for any other use other than the use requested. So we just need to clarify that.
I think it's been corrected. I didn't.
Oh, is it?
I
Okay.
didn't get the minutes back from 7 until today.
Then, okay.
Just changes in it, but that was corrected.
All right, and we have another one, which is the first paragraph on page 2. It's 2 sentences up from the bottom. It talks about maybe spoke about the safety issues that they comply with. They have the Swanzey Fire Department do a hydrostatic test to assure that all is working properly. The fire department witnesses the test but do not perform the test. Okay. And that might be it. That's it.
I
That's it?
don't know if this matters, but on page 3, we were talking about an electronic, it's under definitions, the second paragraph. This is an electronic version of a permitted uses spreadsheet, not a definition spreadsheet.
I'm sorry, say again.
It talks about email and electronic version of her definition spreadsheet, and it's actually permitted uses. You couldn't see the document, you didn't see what I was talking about.
Okay, so it should be,
Permitted uses.
Oh.
Yeah. I don't know definitions.
Okay, anybody else on the minutes? Then all those in favor of approving the minutes, say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Good.
I abstain.
All right, you abstain because you weren't here. Okay, so that moves to applications and public hearings. I'm in a butter on this property, so I cannot do the meeting. I'm handing it over to Richard, and Brandon actually also is in a butter. I'm on the property there, so technically we're both a butters, so we're both stepping down from the meeting. I'm going to take Steve for Brandon. Yeah, actually, yeah, that's it. And I hand the meeting over to Rick. Thank you.
Okay, what we're considering is PB 24013, the boundary line adjustment application. Southwest Community Services and Swanzey Township Housing Association, in partnership with the town of Swanzey, have requested a boundary line adjustment to transfer 3.3 acres of land area from tax map 110 lot 70 to tax map 110 lot 71. The remaining lot 70 will be 5.1 acres, and the expanded lot 71 will be 3.7 acres. Both properties are in the Village Business District 2 and Resident District. there someone here?
Here,
Okay,
I
would
can speak
you
to this.
speak to this, please?
Sure, thank you very much. My name is Keith Tebow. I work for Southwestern Community Services. Being on a lot of boards myself, I always am a little concerned when I see a single issue on my agenda, but I hope this is not going to be a difficult meeting for you all, and this is actually will be helping me to bring something full circle that I've been trying to do for quite some time. SCS finished up this development. It's been very successful for us. It was a big investment in the West Swansea Village, and I'm so proud that the town has taken upon itself to continue that investment in this village. So I just, as a precursor to this, I'd like you to say how proud I am to what I've seen happen here. And so that all being said, and we're proud to be a property owner here in the village as well. About 15 years ago, it came to my attention that the fire station, the West Swansea Fire Station, was sitting on what, 0.37 acres, a third of an acre, roughly. And at that time, I looked at this map as to what we had, so to speak, and really felt that we should be able to do something like what I'm going to propose tonight. But unfortunately, at that time, we had investors still in this deal, and they were very risk averse, and they didn't want to do anything without a whole lot of legal review. And so we sort of backed off of this at that time. In the interim, the investor has exited the deal, as they should. These are 15-year deals. So at year 15, the investor exits the deal. And now Southwestern Community Services controls the limited, both sides, both limited as partner and the general partner of the partnership that owns this development. It's typical how these are owned, but we sit in both seats now. So we control the property. So what we'd like to propose to do, what I'm doing here tonight, is to propose you a boundary line adjustment, which again, I've had this contemplated for a long time, where we're able to, through this boundary line adjustment, we're able to increase the area of the Swanzey Fire Department station to over 3 acres of land, and the town gets the bulk of it. With that boundary line adjustment, the town would also get the bulk of the frontage on the Ashwheeling down to around the corner, and almost no frontage will remain on our property. So on the southwest street property. And that's really it. We think that the ownership of this will obviously help the fire station be able to expand its land, be able to maybe expand its footprint if it chooses to, and will do whatever it wants to do with the external land that it has. And nonetheless, hopefully create yet an even better fire facility than we have in that department. But the facility could become better in the future. And there's a whole lot of people that utilize this little area to take pictures of the bridge on the weekends. And technically, they're parking on our property, or the property owned by the development, which I think it would be much better in the ownership of the town. Much like it, and the town has done such a great job across the bridge to the other side, where the park is in there, and has done a great job from what that was 15 years ago as well to what it is today. So we'd like to contribute to that. We'd like to give the fire department some wiggle room, and literally this is a boundary line adjustment. There's no property being sold here. No anticipation of any being paid for this property or paid. It's really been my idea that I think we rolled around the brain for 15 years of what should be. This is how this property should have broken us appropriately. We still retain 5 acres, which is the minimum. I think the minimum. We still retain 5 acres, which I think it's something. It's important for our development to retain all of our zoning approvals of zoning. We want to maintain that our zoning. Proper zoning on that property, but the rest of it, my next hope is that right across the river in the former woolen factory, that also maybe this, I don't think this will spur anything there, but my hope is that this in the village, this is the next, so it seems to be the next big thing to happen to make the village continue with its growth. So anyone has any questions, I can answer those. Anyone here has any questions about it or anyone else? But that really is what we're looking to do, is to just transfer this property into the ownership of the town, primarily for the use of the fire station, so it can grow as it.
And I just want to add a quick note here. Prior to this adjustment taking place, the fire station lot was a non-conforming lot, being at 0.3 acres. It was under the minimum lot size for the zone district. With this adjustment, both lots are now in conformance with lot size and frontage. So this is now fixing a non-conformity, which is a positive. Yeah.
Part of this, excuse me, part of this, then we're eliminating the existing boundary line and the fire station. It's part of it.
Exactly.
Okay,
There will be a new deed drawn up that will with the meets and bounds that have been developed through this plan, developed by Huntley Associates. A new deed will be drawn up for the fire station property that will properly reflect its boundaries.
okay, so the fire station property is going to extend now from the street all the way back, following this line, the river, and
Yep.
back.
Along the river, right up to this corner of the bridge, where the corner of the bridge is. And then more frontage as well, as on the Main Street.
Is it going to be strictly for the fire station then, or is it going to be town-owned property?
It's town property.
Yeah,
The whole thing is going to be, so. Where, if it's the town-owned property, where will the outer boundary then of the fire station, or can it expand as far as it wants to?
I mean, it depends. We haven't had any proposals from the fire station. I
And
mean,
just ask, yeah.
they could reasonably expand if they wanted to, but they'd have to come through the board to do that, so.
And also Mike was saying that, if the selectmen will actually have to hold a public hearing, right, to accept this land. So there'll be an opportunity for concerned citizens to, go to that selectmen's meeting
Yeah.
and discuss intentions and,
Sure,
you know, what the town's thinking
Yeah.
about for it.
Yep.
So, but from a planning perspective, it's pretty much just up to us to be concerned with the boundary line adjustment. Okay.
Any other questions from the board?
Yeah, I was wondering, what do we know about this land? I mean, is there wetlands here? Is there any kind of contamination of any kind? Anything that we should know about?
Sorry,
Anything
I
that's doing-
I haven't dug deep into that aspect because there's no buildings going up. But with simple lot line adjustments, I don't really think it's necessary to do that deep of a review until there's development happening on the land.
Mhm.
So frankly, I just haven't looked at that yet.
Yeah.
But if it's ever developed, then we will certainly look at it until Conservation Commission.
It was a curiosity question.
Yeah,
we really need cellar of the bucket packet that was there on that property. You don't have to go very far on the left. And then kind of behind the fire station, you can see about 2 walls of it left. Of the packet that was there. Just kind of incremental. But as I understand, it was a cooperage, they made buckets. And then they transformed the buckets over the neighborhood. Across some sort of road. So if there was then the buckets at the whole, so, but if you walk out, that's something that's gonna be the same imagining in the past.
Are there any overflow concerns in the river onto property where anything on the land can wash
It's a
in?
fairly high bank
And,
there. But if I remember correctly.
It's pretty wide. It can take quite a bit of it. And I started typing this year, and it didn't seem that it didn't encroach too much on the property. Since they bridged the dam, it does seem to work pretty well. I had my reservation about it at the time, but it does seem.
Too much.
Maybe.
Any questions from others or?
Well, I think that
Could
I don't think this is all.
you identify yourself?
Excuse me, I'm Rick Robichaud. I live right across the street from the fire department, 35 Main Street. You know, there is a catch basin that they put in when they repaired the bridge and did all the work on Main Street, just to the right of the fire department, if you are facing it.
Okay.
I think that's gonna take care of some of the wetland problems also, because that was put into to catch the water, to silt out the silt while they were working on the river, so, I mean, to filter out the silt. So,
They did that when they took the dam down?
yes, yeah.
I'm sorry, I might have a question. I approve of the subdivision. That was Swansea, but the town of Swansea has the rule that if they have a gift, and this would be a gift to them, they need an appraisal of the gift, and that will be done at a further time.
I have
Is that what I understood?
I have one. I have an appraisal. I have it in hand. I have an appraisal of that.
Current to 15 years ago.
No, current. Yep.
And could you tell me what that amount is?
Top of my head, I don't know, but I can let you know. I'll let Evan know. I'll check it. I don't have it up. It wasn't much.
I don't have it on me.
$10,000.
Yeah, I think
it wasn't. It's no development anyway, so.
Hey, sir, if you email me, I can get you that information. I'm not sure Mike.
They just doubled my value on my property, so I'm wondering how current yours is.
So if you email me, I'll talk to Mike Brayley and we can see if we can get that to you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. That'd be, I certainly do approve this for the town of Swansea, and but all the rules and regulations,
Cross the T's, dot the i's.
Thank you, Brent.
No, you're welcome. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments from others?
One other question. Is the land currently on the tax rolls and will come up?
We do pay taxes on this property. The taxes that are paid on this property are determined by an RSA. We are required to pay 10% of our what we take in for rents. So it's not based upon like you and I, our houses, it's not based on the value of the land. It's based on the amount of rents that are collected or could be collected. And that is all set up in an agreement. So yeah, this will not affect the town's collection of that.
Any other comments from the board or?
I guess more procedural, what is it we're actually approving here? Because I heard that it needs to go in front of the selectmen.
And
I don't think we don't need to make a continual on that. No.
Yeah.
So I think it's just.
I have another,
Question.
yeah.
And it's maybe
Should
really-
you identify yourself? please?
Sure, Paulina Lariviere,
Okay, thank you.
and this may be a silly question. But if later down the road, we discover that there's pollution or something on that section that has to be cleaned up environmentally, that now puts that burden on the town, correct?
I'm not sure how that would,
If the town owns the land, why wouldn't it become our problem? It would become the town's problem.
I guess,
I live across the street from it,
Yeah.
there's a lot of stuff down there.
no, I'm not sure if we could, make it a condition on or accepting it. That we can do test pits or something like that to determine whether or not there's any pollution in the soil.
That would, I think, that would be a question for the town board if they accept the gift.
Or if the selectmen do it.
Yes,
So
for us,
This is
the
just,
question is the line here or here?
right.
ma'am, I would strongly recommend you attend the board of selectmen meeting for
As
that.
long as I get it, I will be happy to.
Absolutely.
I think too, if you're talking about across from your house down the hill, if, can I borrow this just for a second? Yeah, well, the small one might be, what you're gonna find is that we're gonna keep that. This is the boundary line being proposed, here's the fire station, here's this, you live up here,
Mhm.
so people are dumping here, it's still our problems. Because
Okay, I was
this is,
just thinking along the river.
No,
well, we're here, they can't get that, I mean, they're dumping them.
No, I'm not talking about
Okay.
other things that, I don't know that people are dumping down there now. But I'm just thinking from past businesses that were there and things that were left behind, that new surface over years. My house was built in 1841, I have a lot of subsurface in it all the time.
Interesting. The village.
Any further comments and questions? Okay, and then I'll entertain a motion from the board to accept or the boundary line adjustment.
So moved.
Second,
Because by Victoria, seconded by,
He's not seated.
yes, it is, for this,
For granted.
for Brandon.
Okay. I'm sorry, I didn't tell me that. I knew Jane was seated, but I didn't. know-
Yes, Scott is seated, yeah, for Brandon.
But for whom?
When
Steve,
Brandon left and stuff.
Oh, my mind goes out of divinity. Okay, I think, okay.
Steve is in there. Okay, so we have a motion and seconded, all in favor, seconded by Steve, was made by Victoria.
Seconded by Steve. Got it. Okay.
Again, all in favor,
Aye.
opposed? Done.
Thank you, we'll take it to the next step. Appreciate your help.
Another question for you.
All right, I'm gonna reseat Brandon and unseat Steve. No, Brandon, I just had to. Oh, yeah, yeah, I'm not CJ. Thank
Sorry.
I see the thing for Michael George. Yeah. So we're moving on to discussions, other business, to be the discussion about site plan modification, the new form discussion, and we got a new form in our packet. Version 3.
Anticipating the board.
Yeah, let's see. So did everybody get a chance to have a look at that form there? This is for a
I had another thought.
minor site plan modification.
So, listen, I've asked this question before, so I want to know why. Okay, so what if the project statement clearly describes the proposed modifications of the site? If somehow we raise that question to ask why, what they're hoping to accomplish by modifying the site. Because I feel like that sort of teases out, and that way we'll know if they tell us why they want to do it, we'll know if they're going to accomplish it by what they want them to do.
Well, doesn't that come up in discussion? You know, they can propose anything to the board, when it comes to the board starts discussing it, that's when those questions are answered, why are you doing it? Why not this way, why not that way?
But my thought was that part of the objective of this form was to sort of help people clarify their thinking before they get here, so that when they walk in, they can say, here's the problem, here's what we want to do to fix the problem.
Yeah, I thought about that. It's a good question. None of our forms go over the form
Okay.
usually.
Okay.
And so the why is important and it's something that needs to be discussed.
Yeah.
On a form, it's tough. You're gonna get a lot of wishy.
Alright.
No,
It's a thought.
it is a good thought and it's why we have, really, to get to the root of why. On the form, if we can, I like it to just be facts. What are we looking at?
And they'll already have a reason anyways, otherwise they wouldn't be filling out the form. They would have a reason to change something on the site plan, so they'd be able to tell us why. But yeah, the project statement, that should be good for the board to take a look at and see what's going on there. And yeah, they can plead their case before the board as to why and why not.
I had sent an email. Inquiring whether or not we should have a section in there for staff comments.
I got it on the back. I got it on the back. I got, oh, did I give you the wrong one? Oh, I think you might have picked up an old version.
Yeah, well, no, I just, yeah, okay,
Okay,
it's just on the back.
yep, so I'm planning on having a nice big empty box on the back where we could enter in our comments. I like to have it on the back, that way the front's nice, clean. And on the back, it just gets.
You're talking about comments on if it's approved or not approved,
Nope, just mainly, so if Stefan, me, Mike, if anyone in the office.
staff comments.
Yeah, so if we have concerns.
Yeah.
Because there's no memo that goes with these.
Yeah.
And so in lieu of a memo.
That's what, it says, I don't have that, one, it says staff.
Oh, okay, I think, yeah, I think I reflected the older one. There you go. Oh, there we go, okay.
There it is. So I had a modification maybe of the second line, the second box. It says a scaled site plan clearly showing the area to be amended. I'm thinking maybe instead they should provide an updated copy of the original site plan showing modification. They should say that because they need to have they had a site plan on record in order to modify it. It was already there. So telling them just to bring a copy of that with their changes to the board.
It's a really different version.
Scaled site plan that shows existing conditions and proposed modifications. Let's see.
Yeah, that was a change. So I think what happened was that you guys maybe got draft 2.
Yeah.
And this is draft 3. So I apologize for that. I took Victoria's comments to heart, and it was a good suggestion to make sure it's clear existing and proposed. I'm happy to chat, you know, if we just say bring approved site plan with modifications, I think
the board would want to see the approved site plan, you know,
Yeah.
if they have a scaled plan, they may bring another plan that's scaled and might not be exactly like the one that we approved, but if we have them bring a copy of the one we approved, it's all on it, you know, signatures and everything, what we approved, so if you can just mention the approved site plan, it can be the scaled site plan, but it's got to be the scaled approved site plan.
yeah, I think that's a good suggestion.
Okay.
So, where the approved site plan is some of the written one that we've seen recently. As opposed to them bringing something that's. You know, more.
I see what you mean, yeah, something more elaborate
Yeah.
we're looking at, so. If they had a site plan filed with the office there that the planning board approved, we shouldn't make them do a whole nother big site plan just for this modification, because we approved a site, they can bring that in. But if they want to expand the property or something like that, that's our chance to say, okay, bring in a scale up, you know, a little bit better than you got here. I think that would cover it better than making you go through the whole thing, and they don't need to, because obviously we approve something, and they just want to modify it.
I was thinking, kind of like, they went and did the more up to date, makes a plan. It would be much clearer in the file, but they still need to bring the old one. Just.
They would
see it.
It's still, I think it still gets back to the plan that was approved by the board. You know, they can bring in a different plan that looks a whole lot better and everything, but that wasn't the one approved by the
Or
board.
if they have another plan, we should still require them to bring.
They can submit it with it, but
Right,
they should
okay.
bring a copy of the approved one that we did approve, so we can look at all of it. I think,
That's a way of encouraging.
Yeah.
Well.
up to them, if they want to bring more information, that is fine.
And that way, that updated plan would be useful for future site plan review, because if it ever goes beyond the scope of modification, updated plan here. So that's good to know. And between draft 2 and 3, I did change, I moved the history box, instead of having file number, I just put approval date, that way we know when the change is made. I know we technically have file numbers, but for ease of, for readability, I think approval dates this time.
So where the paragraph starts out, site plan modifications or changes which result in minimal impact to the overall site layout or adjacent properties and plans that do not require a public hearing. What are we talking about there? I had that crossed out on mine because it's kind of, I don't know, ambiguous there. I had crossed it out and I modified it like this. I'll start from the beginning. Site plan modification or changes which result in minimal impact to the overall site layout or adjacent properties. I ended that there. Okay. Then after that, as the planning board at their discretion may determine if modifications can be processed as a site plan modification at a regular meeting. I added at a regular meeting or will require a public hearing. Because the planning board still has the discretion when they come in to say, no, this is too much. You need a public hearing for it or not. So that kind of clearly lets them know that the planning board will be determining that at that meeting, whether they can do it at a regular meeting or will require a public hearing.
Yep, and if it ever does go to a public hearing, it will have to stop and notify the butters.
Of course, yeah, but they'd be in here to determine one way or the other which way it's gonna go.
Yep.
Sets expectations for the applicant.
It
lets them know, yes.
Yeah.
I do think it's still important to include that you guys still have that ability to raise this to a full site plan if you feel like it's necessary. Thoughts?
Scott really simplifies it.
Yeah,
You want to put a site plan.
I feel like a small company or whatever. I do, yeah, and minor. I still think something like, those are good comments and I think those, we will include that. But it also does need to read that they can raise it to a full site plan because that's another level. Because it could be a full site.
One other thing, on the second one, the scale site plan that shows existing conditions. Excuse me, existing conditions and proposed modifications. Existing conditions, does that include as currently developed?
We modified that to say that they're bringing in a copy of their approved site plan. That
Oh,
will, we are
okay.
gonna have existing.
You can have an approved site plan, but that doesn't mean that it was followed.
Right, but that's up to code enforcement. We are not enforcement. We can't enforce it at all. This board does not have that kind of power. We are just to look at the site plans. If they do something wrong, then it's up to code enforcement, which is actually selectmen, and they determine that the code enforcement does that.
You know, it's a good thought, because if that does happen, that might be a case where we need to do a full site plan.
Or it might be a case where that's part of their modification to incorporate the changes that who's did
Yes.
as a part of, just so we get it on.
So shall we,
I've seen where we've gotten that out of people. Through our questions and.
so shall we simplify that paragraph? Site plan modifications or changes which result in minimal impact to the overall site layout or adjacent properties. You cross that out and say the planning board at their discretion may determine if modification can proceed under the process as a site plan modification at a regular public meeting. Or will require a site plan review in a public hearing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think we
We'll
can
have
have
done that.
Yeah.
All right.
Maybe require or reclassify.
Will require, not may, but will will require a site plan review in a public hearing.
I'll take a photo of that.
Shall.
Either way, I think.
Shall be more.
Shall means must.
Yeah.
Yeah, either way, yeah, it's shall is fine. So, put this in there. So if we do this, which we should do this, we should have a form for the modifications, small modifications, site plans. But we need to put it into our site plan review regulations, giving ourselves the authority to do that. It's got to be mentioned in the regulations, as said, what requires it, what it looks like and all that. And I wrote down, and I'll give this to you, I just wrote it on the back of this thing. Oh, perfect. So this would be under section 5, under general on our site plan review regulations. And I'll just read down the thing. We'll start there. So it would be a new item number 6, and you don't have to put all this down, but I'm gonna do this to them.
Okay.
But it'll be number 6, and it'd be under minor site plan modifications. It'll be A, and then minor site plan modification may be approved at a regularly scheduled meeting without a public hearing. If the board determines that the proposed minor modification is 1, minor in nature and conforms to all requirements of these site plan regulations. 2 conforms to all the conditions of the approved site plan. 3 would not alter the general layout and use of the approved site. Then have examples under B, examples of a minor modification would be minor change in the location of utilities, etc. Minor adjustment to the placement of a structure. Minor change in species of a tree or shrub in the landscape plan layout. Minor change in location of a catch basin or drain. Replacement of a structure in the same footprint as the original structure. And item C would be modifications affecting abutters. For that would be I. Modification, any modification that affects an abutter, and in parentheses, setbacks, screening, traffic, lighting, etc., will require a public hearing in accordance with OSA 67641.
Will or shall,
Pardon me?
will or shall in public hearing.
Start that again, Eric.
I'm on. We'll use this shall, huh? Okay. Let me cross that out, chat.
You're shut off.
What? I'm sorry. This is to go on the general. About general, and it'd be a new number 6.
Okay, adding number 6.
Yeah, a new number 6.
Things right in your site plan. There's, he's adding after number 5, he's gonna add a whole new section.
Yeah, pretty much it just describes what a minor
Yeah.
site plan modification is, and gives a few examples as to what it would be to give to the board's intent as to what it's supposed to be. Anything else, anything bothering the abutters or anything like that would have to come for a site.
So that you will define mine.
That defines minor, pretty much, yeah, in that, and it's not, yeah, it doesn't give every example of minor, but there's examples of it, so, you know, the board has something to discuss. And basically up to us to decide whether it's minor or not, and it says it in this right here.
So does any of those examples not be minor? Because if that's the case. So probably need to make sure we got the words in there,
Well,
that it's still at the discretion of the board.
it is, yeah, it's always gonna be.
Because I don't want somebody to read that.
That's right.
Oh, no, we're doing catch basin, and that's not a big deal. When you look at it on the map, and oh, yeah, it is a big deal.
Again, yeah, if the planning board decides that it is a big deal, even though it may say, mention a catch basin or something like that, the planning board can back up their determination and the planning departments.
Did we include language in the start of that section, including but not limited to?
How about shall?
No. Including but not limited to.
Yeah, we can put that in there, including but not limited to, or
Because
just some
otherwise,
examples.
you're hit with, well, it wasn't specified.
Yeah, I suppose you get hit with that anyways, either way.
No, but including but not limited to limits that exposure.
It's pretty common language. I'm sure we can.
And again, you know, we're gonna need probably one more discussion. Gonna get this, Adam, if he can type it up in that or take away whatever. And if at our next meeting, we'll have one more discussion and make any changes to it. And then if that's okay, then we'll go to a public hearing and then amend the site plan regulations, and then it will be fun. So that's how it'll work. There'll be a few meetings.
Good. Thank you all.
There you are.
You want to copy it?
No, I'll trust you with that.
I'm just not photo.
So, so Adam has given us a photograph here. And this pertains to the industrial park over North Swanzey. There's Safford Drive there, and that red outline little, I think there are 2 properties there.
Three.
Or the 3 properties there, okay. Those properties want to be regarded under the business zone, which is across the street, rather than included in the industrial park. And this is just to look at to decide for town meeting next year, because it'd have to go under an amendment to zoning ordinance. That be rezoned as a business there. And
But why is it they've asked for this?
Yep, a couple of them have, we're still gonna be reaching out to the third, but they have expressed interest in being out of industrial industry.
it gives them more uses for their property, including multifamily, actually. Industrial park doesn't allow multifamily, or variance does. But speaking of which, that lot 8 is the new multifamily lot, is it not?
Oh, I have to check.
Yeah, that's where they're putting that up there.
Yeah.
Right, so if we redefine those lots of business, we should include number 8, because that was an allowable use in there.
I'm happy to bring that as a discussion.
I think that might make sense. So we all know what we're talking about here, right? Again, this won't be until town meeting next year.
So that's, all right, did we change that over to the business? And an individual wants to come in and buy those 3 properties or those 3 lots and put an industry in there. What are they going to have to go through in order to get that in there if we change it?
It depends what's allowed. If it's change of business, then everything that's allowed in the business zone can be put into there, which actually are more uses than in industrial park.
But what I'm saying, what I'm asking is if a developer comes in, wants to buy those 3 lots and then wants to put an industrial building in, what is he going to have to do in order to get out of the business part to go to put the industrial in?
Well, again, it depends on what use it is. There are quite a few, might not be industrial uses, but business uses that would be allowed there. If it's something that's not allowed, then obviously you have to go to the zoning board of adjustment to get a variance on, like these guys had to do.
Mhm.
And they may or may not get a variance, but there are more allowable uses for the business zone as there are, and then there are for the industrial park zone. Different uses, of course. There are a lot more special exception uses in the business zone as there are for the industrial park. And those houses there are not an allowable use in the industrial park, but they are an allowable use in the business zone if they've already been there.
So may I ask a question? So that's a TIF district, it has a certain regulation.
That's right, yeah, you're right.
I don't know whether you can.
I don't know, that's a good question.
The only way
Yeah.
I'm checking on that, because that has a specific financial
It does.
element in it.
It's coming up on the 15 years, I think.
Yeah, it is coming to an end. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. I think you could.
No, you're right. I think you're right. We'd have to check with,
Yep.
I don't know.
Mike Brindley. We've been talking about the TIF district, yeah, so we will discuss that.
But that's a good point, thanks.
It might be a whole,
Yeah,
but we'll see.
yep. All right. Good. Other business as required.
Just a question, I'm wondering, do we have the capacity to index our minutes? Yeah, so that we could, look up search words in our minutes.
Yeah, I think the way that's handled now is just control F, honestly, indexing minutes, I don't.
You can do it.
It can be done, I don't need to know how, I just wonder whether we can.
If you have access, they're PDFs.
Yeah, right.
You can't do it with PDF.
You can do
You
it.
can control.
Within the town office, so like if I were to come in and say, could you find, instances of whatever, you could.
It would take a while, and depending on what, you'd have to know what minutes,
Okay.
I
I'm just, is that a software package that maybe?
don't know, yeah.
They have to buy a particular, well, I don't think they want the public changing anything in the, and if you're going to be searching, then you're actually going into the document,
Yeah.
which they won't allow the public to do, that's why they're PDFs.
Okay, I was just thinking, I was looking for some information
You can't change it.
and I didn't know, I didn't know what date.
They can still search it for you, for information. They can go see.
We index our agendas, that we could do. Easily,
Yeah.
could we not index our agendas?
I think I'm confused about what we.
I mean, so I just want to be able to look up what was the date on which we discussed a particular application? Wouldn't that be? Because this thing is so.
I have every document that I've ever created accessible to me,
Yeah,
okay, in a separate folder.
Yeah.
If you would have asked me.
Yeah.
I could actually search for a particular word even
yeah,
in that, in the documents.
Yeah. but it's actually what I'm looking for is very simple, like, applicant, the gas station, when did we approve that gas station? So that I could go directly to
Well,
the
the
minute.
PDF, the PDF.
But if we could just index yes, the PDF is also indexed, but the agenda.
So the only way,
Anyway, just a thought.
You can find that information in the lot, you look up the lot and where it's held in the land use office there, of the drawings and everything else in there, and you can cross it that way.
yeah,
It'd be
So
quicker to
long
do
as
it that
it's
way.
been entered.
Yeah, just whatever the lot number is and property is there, you go in there and check that out, and you can find it.
so right now, you just gotta talk to us and we can help you find it. In the future, I'm hoping all of this can be digitized and searchable.
Searchable.
That is going to be,
How about, just a thought.
but please call us if you need that, because we can help you find it. We have a tough time finding that information as well. We can find it and we do find it, but it might take a little bit.
Victoria, you're thinking that if you can find what the date of the meeting, then you can get on
Then I
the.
can get into the minutes, I don't have to, search around.
Yeah. So Victoria, I'd be happy to help you if you had a specific request.
Thank you.
As long as it's not, a whole bunch of people.
Yeah,
I'm glad to do that.
thank you.
You know, we're gonna line up and I need some more stuff.
And shall. All right, what else do we have here?
I've got a couple of minor things.
Yeah.
And
We
be there.
we have, I don't think determined whether or not we're gonna do a second meeting in November. And also in December, the 26th, our second meeting is the day after Christmas.
Is it really, yeah?
So do we want to do in both months back to back meetings?
Yeah, 1 week and then another week. Again, it depends on what's coming in, we're getting nothing nowadays, so it wouldn't be a problem.
If we have it on the schedule, then that makes it a hell of a lot easier.
If
to
it's back to
cancel
back.
it.
Oh, yeah, I see what you're talking about.
Then,
That makes
to
it,
try and
makes
create it.
sense. Yeah, it makes sense to do that.
you're thinking, everything's supposed to be 3 weeks out.
Yeah, maybe we ought to do that, schedule the meetings back to back, and then if there's nothing there, we cancel it.
I just saw that, those dates.
Want to do that?
Yeah.
Or,
Mhm.
Sure.
okay, we'll have them do that back to back, and that is for the, what is it? The November meeting, back to back meetings, and the December meeting, back to back.
Correct.
November?
November and December.
So have both meetings on the same.
Thursday.
It's the second or third week, is that what you're saying?
Yeah,
Second
Yeah,
and
second
third.
and third, yeah.
Got it. That makes sense. Cool.
and then another minor thing, have these staff seen the final site plan from Blueberry? Where he's locating his things?
I have that Mike, it would come to Mike.
Okay, and Catlet, their project by the airport. I'm getting
It's one.
Catola, I'm sorry.
The new housing they're building
Yeah,
inside.
I'm getting complaints, the fact that one building has been there for over a year now, and there's no siding on it, there's nothing, and not really much else going on.
Again, yeah, I'd have to ask Mike and see if he's been out there. That's a building inspector thing. I can ask Mike though.
They did do more footing for the.
The footings have been there for almost 2 months now,
Yeah, they've been there for a while.
Yeah, we did.
still nothing.
Anything else? Well, we may or may not know that we have another fire station advisory committee on board going again. A few of us from the planning board, Mark is on it, I am on it, and Michael York is on it as well. And again, we're discussing the whole thing about the fire department in North Swansea, or the Swansea Center one actually, but putting one up maybe in North Swansea, or the location of it and all the things that go along with it. And just wondering if the board has any input on that, or if you can think about it. The committee is a big committee, 20 people on that committee, so it's gonna be going on for a while. And we're just, putting things back and forth as to what it should be. There's been a lot of discussion on other sites other than the one that was chosen that they purchased that house on up there. And it hasn't really been determined whether that's off the record or not, or what's gonna happen there.
So you mean that the 6 times they put it on the ballot and 6 times that it got shot down wasn't enough for them to realize that that's the crappy location for it?
But it hasn't really been determined what's wrong with the location before you go looking for another location. And the committee hasn't discussed this at all, but I sent an email today to Jay saying that we do have to figure some of these things out as to what exactly is wrong with that site and determine whether it's in the running or not in the running before you go looking around at other sites in the town and what the town owns and stuff. So anyways, that's there, the size of the station, everything is there, going to be discussed in that group. And again, any input that the planning board might have, I can take to the board, or Mark can take to the board, or the.
Meetings are open to the public as well, so.
They are, right?
You know, that location is absolutely lousy. It's
Because of what? Because they're gonna be discussing that location, so we need to know what the problem is with that location.
Line of sight.
Line of sight.
It's one of the biggest complaints.
Is it really a blind location?
Yeah, it is.
Because, you know,
You come up out of the swell, northbound, and you're coming up and around the corner
Yeah.
and then dropping down.
From neighbors going that
where you come up and meet the road, and you're in something at least as high as a pickup truck, certainly higher. I don't see the site problem there, and then
Not everybody has pickup.
maybe I need to drive.
No, but he's talking about the fire equipment there. I agree with you. He's talking about the fire equipment. They're sitting up high in a vehicle. Yeah, other people coming up the road might not see it, but they're gonna see, the guys driving the equipment is gonna see up and down the road. And plus, I would imagine they would have some kind of flashing lights,
They sure would.
letting them know that something's going out.
Yeah, I didn't know if it's the site or if it was the price tag or a combination of both, and it very well might be the latter there. Certainly, whatever input we get from anybody here, we can take that to the board or.
But I think it's a combination of both the site and the cost, but what other locations are you even contemplating?
They're talking about the post office up there, which, yeah, I mean, the post office is still using that property. It doesn't mean, you don't even know if you could have that property, but they've talked about the post office up there, the one, right? There's even one on Route 10 where Nick's Restaurant is. They don't own that property, obviously,
You
and
still gotta come across the bridge.
they talked about buying more property or purchasing or somehow getting more property in the back of town hall and expanding it there. They talked about a Carlton road site. I'm not exactly sure which lot it is down there, but one that floods
Floods, yeah.
seasonally, so that is probably out.
And then Bell property.
Talked about Bell property, which is right down
Just
from,
south of the
yeah, that's that way. And they talked about Ken Greatbatch's property down here on, Potter's Bowl, that's right, that's the other one, Potter's Bowl. So all those, the property down here, Ken Greatbatch is in the flood zone, so that probably would be out.
And there was another property just north of Savage and Sock Farm there.
That's city owned, right? City property, they want, they're interested in leasing it. Yeah.
And, but I heard that's not available. Heard that.
That's Keen owns that.
Yeah, and King. Right,
Thought maybe
possible
do a
lease,
swap,
long-term
you
lease.
know, but
So yeah, that's been talked about, and just really the function of the fire department has been talked about, and we've discussed in the meeting, and probably will be discussing more, the fact that the Cheshire County has their services right over there in North Swansea, which is emergency medical for everything. And the trend of the calls of the fire department are trending towards medical and not fire calls. So they're big time, they're going that way, more medical calls and fire calls. So something that needs to be discussed with the committee is that, you know, when you move this fire station up there, because it's got to come out of town hall, because of the fumes and that stuff. Probably should be focused on a fire department and not necessarily reduplicating the medical part of it, because we already have that in our town. Luckily for us, it's right there, and the response time is probably quicker than our own response time.
30
because we're
seconds in my
volunteers.
house.
Yeah. So, yeah, so that's another thing that we're looking at changing too.
I wondered if it crossed my mind when we were looking at the plans tonight with more room on the fire department side of things, would that decrease any of the problem about the fire station if they expanded over here Could they expand enough that they wouldn't have to be under the town hall?
I think response time is there a concern about that? Response time to a fire, not the medical, of course, because medical. is
Yeah,
pretty open,
I got that.
but Fire response time,
You're talking to somebody that lives on the other side of the bridge, no matter where you.
no matter what, you know.
Unless you put it in Nick's.
But then you're taking North Swansea out of
Yeah,
it. Then you're taking North Swansea out of it if you
Yeah,
relocate.
right.
but they also discussed whether Keene would take over and service North Swansea.
They used to.
I know they get like a first call or a second call, something like that.
We had them at my house at one time.
Yeah.
First one.
Well, they get called, and they don't respond to our stuff, if nobody shows up from this town, of course, you know, they're gonna keep on calling to
So,
somebody.
so most calls do come in for North Swansea and then West Swansea.
Yeah, that's where the majority of the calls are.
So,
But those calls are primarily EMS calls.
They are, yeah, they are, and
Straight across the board, right? From Westwood to over there.
yeah, both sides, it's medical calls is what the majority is, and we discussed also about the senior housing building going up over there, 4-story building. And more calls over there, but again, more calls, probably gonna be medical calls over there and not the calls for the fire department. So I think that's something that our committee that we're on, gonna have to really define as to what we're talking about, the fire station there. And is the equipment that they have in Swansea Center, they have one engine. They have a 3,000-gallon tanker truck, and they have a brush truck over in Swansea Center. And is that efficient enough, or is that servicing the town now? Or are there problems with that getting out of the fire? If it's not, if that's the latter, that they are doing fine with the equipment, it's just that they have to move it from town hall, then that kind of tells you about what the size of the building is gonna have to be to house those, maybe one more bay. They have 3 bays over there in Swansea Center, maybe one more bay, and it kind of a starting point there on the size of it.
Here's a novel idea.
What's that?
Put on the former Ferguson property, put the town hall there.
Which property is that?
That's the one that they proposed to put the. fire
Oh,
station.
okay, yeah,
Anything that gives me a break room, I am all for it. That seems to wash my dishes.
Putting, I don't know how it would apply, but putting the single-story town hall building there.
Mhm.
And then converting or adding that extra bay into where the parking area is behind the town hall now. You know, what would be your costs to do that versus trying to do the whole fire station deal up there?
So let's see, the third or fourth bay for the Swansea Center Station would
Go
go
towards-
towards the school,
Yes.
that way there.
You cut into that back parking area to
Mhm.
create that.
But if we move the town hall, we said it wouldn't matter to build the parking.
It's
No, that's exactly.
definitely something to, bring up to the committee, and if I don't, you bring it up.
no, you're gonna bring it.
It is an idea, we're looking for any idea.
Use Richard's name.
Yeah, I will.
Well, the public can attend those.
Yeah, they
meetings.
can.
So, all right,
Mm.
there you go.
No, but that's thinking out of the box.
When does that committee meet?
But definitely.
Pardon me,
When does that committee meet?
when or where?
Both.
Oh, when we meet here,
So,
and, it's not a set thing.
Yeah. and we
I
have
think
to-
next week, I think it's set for Thursday
Yes.
at like 6:30 here,
Yes.
next Thursday, but we just had a meeting last Monday, was it?
Okay.
Monday, yeah, Monday, so it's kind of haphazard. I think he's pushing along a little bit to get it closer to time limits on, town meetings.
There's one other point that you could make to the group.
Yeah.
And that the bays have to be much taller because the equipment, as they're replacing the equipment, the apparatus.
Yeah.
They're getting bigger
It's
and
taller
bigger
and
and
taller.
bigger. And so one day, a new one day wouldn't be significant.
Well, you can still jack, if you had to, you can still jack that main building.
You could, but it does make sense to build them tall to begin with, because you still got the same footprint of the building, you're just going up a little higher. That's not a problem at all right there.
Because when they buy new apparatus, they're getting bigger every
Yeah.
time they buy.
Yeah.
and they really have some space around the vehicle, so then it's really properly.
Yeah. I think that's part of the problem with they don't have enough space around the engines, over in Swansea Center, and the fumes come up into the town hall. I think those are the two reasons that they're
That's what the
moving it out of there.
A number of people voiced concerns about making sure that the center stays kind of a historical center. Sort of taking this building that's, fairly old. The town hall is 100 and some odd years old. And trying to kind of continue to make that a fire station might not be the smartest thing to do. So, you just saying,
Yeah.
some of the opinions that are voiced. So
So
they even talked about the potash bowl, right? Converting that, using that one.
Yeah, talked about that.
Devin Button's gonna be happy about that.
Feeling that's kind of a unique thing in the center. Town.
A little history to it, yeah.
Just a cinder block stage now, it's not like a historic town hall building.
What?
The potash bowl.
There's not much room there. That land comes down. They'd have to take a lot out of that room, that land back there. They don't have room for expansion. The property that they have now has room for expansion if they put a smaller building there. And if they did one on Route 10, obviously, if they bought, which I doubt they ever would, but bought Nick's restaurant there, they'd have plenty of room there. But other than that,
That kind of defeats the purpose though, if
it kind of does, yeah, it kind of does.
Because there's no way of getting to North Swansea without going over a bridge.
Yeah.
And I think,
Yeah.
loop down around here and then go up.
yeah, the top of it.
And they also talked about combining East and Swansea Center stations. And I don't think that went over too well, again, it's Swansea spread out and those satellite stations serve a purpose, that's why they're like that. So response time,
And Scott, there's another, I think, intention. I don't understand. What do people want? Do they want to see a new station be a substation or be like a headquarters?
Yes.
So that would determine the size of the building. If it's gonna be another substation, they could build a station that's half the cost of the one they proposed, which would make people happy who are worried about cost, right? But if they want a centrally located headquarters,
yeah,
then you're gonna have to have a big building,
Yeah.
and the cost go up, so that needs to be determined by the committee.
it does, yeah, and pretty soon too, we need to determine some of these simple things right off the bat before we start discussing a bunch of stuff.
You can't discuss the cost or the size of the building until you determine whether
You
it's
know.
a substation or a filling
Yeah.
station, main station.
And would,
So probably it'll be a different format. So-
yeah, it probably would be a substation over in Swansea Center, just because of the fact that the medical is pretty much covered by Cheshire County, and we pay them anyways, we're going to continue to do that, so. Might make sense just for a satellite station over there with 4 bays. But yeah, I sent an email to Jay, he's the, Jay Ward, he's the chairman of the board of
It's a
that
great job.
committee, yeah, and he's put a lot of work into it. So, and if I'm not, I might not be at the next meeting, so I'm not there. You guys bring, Michael's in here, bring stuff.
No pressure.
So,
So the other thing is, whatever we build, we should build it smart so we can add additional bays on. We can add, if we ever have to go to a paid fire department, we can add, the additional space on that we require.
yeah,
So it's building smart as well. Didn't even get to the building. I think we're gonna probably focus on the location.
probably
and
should
then-
nail that down,
And
yeah,
how to go there.
and choose a location big enough to add on like that.
And it's all for us.
Maybe take a look at some of the old plans, but then again, when you get the architects involved, since their commission it coincides with the expense of the building, they're under no rule to make it, small and economical. They want the biggest thing ever because, they're in business, so they make their money. So if it's designed and laid out properly on the piece of land in terms of expansion, future expansion for whichever, then should be designed accordingly to those, not letting the architect do it, but letting the town do it. Say the architect, here's what we want, size, and do it.
I don't know if it's fire departments generally or architects generally. They like all the bells and whistles and thrills.
Well, it's probably a little bit of both right there.
What?
Probably a little bit of both right there.
Yes.
Yeah. But there is a difference between and wants. We have
Oh, yeah.
to nail that one down too with the committee meeting area. It's gonna be tough because there are quite a few fire members on that committee as well.
There should be, but
There are, and as there should be, yeah, they have good input there. Another thing about that keeps on coming up is that for the future of the fire department, they're talking about no one is volunteering anymore for those positions. They're having trouble finding the firefighters there, and that is true. What are they gonna do? A full-time fire department probably is not gonna fly too well.
Staffing 3 stations.
Yeah, that'd be tough. We can sit.
What used to be the North Swansea Community House and is now Camp Dakota's headquarters.
Mhm.
Did the YMCA buy that property from the town, or the town donate that to them?
As
Or
far as I knew, they owned that, but way back when they set that up over there, I recall they were in the, I don't know if you were on the board then. Yeah, and I thought they owned that piece of property.
The YMCA owned it?
Yeah, yeah, that, it's
They-
like,
they
like a house thing.
They
Yeah.
remodeled it.
Well, I know that we have it, but it used to be the North Swansea Community House. And I thought the town owned that.
You know where we're talking about?
They do. But we're on that.
On Lake Street.
Yeah, question.
Do you know the name of the street, or the address on
I
it?
think
You could
it
just look it up. and see.
Yes.
No, no,
Like-
side street.
Yeah, I forget that.
It's right on the corner of Lake and
Walnut? No.
the one that.
Oh,
Lake-
yeah. Like up here.
It's not a very big property. though.
No, it's not.
No, it goes back. It's earlier behind the building. Because that was
With-
out
with-
there.
Maybe if you bought Claire Bemis.
I don't know why YMCA is
Next door.
here.
Somewhere that little, I don't know, well, like North Lake, is that North Village? Is that-
Yeah. What's that?
Did you take that right, put like a 3-page or all that? Yeah, that's a very tall cedar with big doors.
Yeah.
Who owns that?
Well, this is fine. Yeah, this is, that's what I'm referring to. Oh, yeah, that's, I think that's the one you see, yeah, it goes back, it goes back quite a way.
Yeah, so the YMCA owns that.
They do, now, I think, so the town was, they must have, wanted to stop that too. With that plan.
So any thoughts about the fire station, give them to the committee if you can, or any one of us at the planning board, Mark or Mike. And we'll mention it. So anything else?
Really quick, just to tee up for the next meeting, we have 2 applications. After those 2 applications, I want to hit on definitions. I have something prepared for contractor bay facilities that I want to talk about. Not expecting it to be super controversial in this group, but I want to talk about it. And I want you to gather your thoughts, please.
Can you,
Okay.
that will be in the packet, so
It
you
will
can
be.
think about it.
That one will be in the packet.
Good.
We shall think of it.
It shall. We shall get it. I appreciate
I would all.
that.
All right, anything else?
You may.
Good of yours. Not a motion to adjourn would be in order.
No.
So moved.
I'll second.
Who made the motion?
Mark.
Okay, Mark, makes the motion, seconded by Brandon. All those in favor, again by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, and we're.
You want to love that?